Good evening, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Joel Fritzman here, alongside myself tonight. Welcome in, everyone, to this live severe weather briefing, March 25th, 2026. Again, if you're just joining us, feel free to hit that like button. Let us know where you're watching from tonight, and we'll go ahead and get started here in just a second. Let me know how my mic is sounding as well. Feel free to say hi in chat as we get started. Currently on your screen is live radar across the state of Michigan this evening. Thank you, Fun. Thank you, KFA. Sounds good. Sweet. Yeah, so as I mentioned, here is current radar across the state this evening, March 25, here as of 7:03 p.m. Again, got a couple light showers, some moderate showers actually mixing in across portions of central Michigan out there, as you can see, indicated by some of the darker greens and yellows. Up there to the north of Sault Ste. Marie, got some blues, which, yes, that is snow moving across portions of central Ontario. Just wanted to go over what's basically going to be happening tomorrow. We got a whole charcuterie board worth of stuff going on across the state of Michigan tomorrow. And the first and the most important thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is going to be the severe weather threat for portions of southern Michigan. And before we talk about our forecast here at Michigan Storm Chasers, I just wanted to bring in the Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlook that they released. This was updated at 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. They added a level 3 out of 5 on their scale, enhanced risk for portions of central Illinois, north central Indiana, and far western Ohio, as labeled there in the orange, as you can see on your screen. There's also a level 2 risk, slight risk on their key for the bottom two rows of counties here in southern Michigan. Again, shown in yellow there. That includes cities like Kalamazoo, the edge of Detroit, Jackson, Hillsdale, Coldwater, Three Rivers, to name a few major cities along and south of 94, which is where the slight risk is pretty much lined up. And then everyone along and south of 96 is in at least a level 1 marginal risk, shown in green there from the Storm Prediction Center. It's an all hazards risk. There's your tornado outlook, severe wind outlook, and severe hail outlook. They all are on there in some capacity. Now, I will say this, the primarily the hazard that we have coming in here for tomorrow is going to be large hail first, perhaps a little bit of a tornado threat, and then it will transition to a damaging wind threat throughout the evening. What does this look like for ingredients, though, to kind of paint the picture, so to speak? Now, here at Michigan Storm Chasers, you're going to hear this all summer long, all spring long. We have 4 main ingredients that we talk about when it comes to severe weather: shear, lift, instability, and moisture. We have to look at these 4 main ingredients to see whether or not certain hazards will be there or they might not be there. And the first and foremost one that we want to look at here is our S component, our shear, the big wind factor that factors into our winds and our tornado threat that would be moving in starting as early as 3 p.m. tomorrow. Now, here is what we call the low-level jet. The hotter colors that you see on the map here for the state of Michigan show a stronger low-level jet. This means we have very, very fast winds, very close down to the ground, about a mile to about 2 miles up in the atmosphere. It's still a ways up there, but again, those are the driving winds that we need for severe winds, perhaps an isolated tornado or two. We're going to go ahead and fast forward this into Thursday, starting here at noon. You can see tonight we have a pretty strong low-level jet out there, but that goes away as we move into the overnight hours and early on Thursday. In fact, tomorrow morning is going to start out pretty nice across portions of southern Michigan, so it's going to be kind of a fake value of what's going to be coming later in the day. We may see some red skies in morning, sailors take warnings sort of stuff, but that is yet to be determined. Again, low-level jet kind of tapers off overnight, but as we get into starting at 2 o'clock tomorrow, it does pick up right along I-94 and points south. And in fact, as this line of storms matures by the dinner time frame, so that evening commute, 5, 6, and even 7 o'clock, this is 7 o'clock that's showing on your screen, you can see there's your low-level jet setting up right along 94, and it increases as the night goes on. Here is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock, and those are your supporting winds for perhaps some gusty winds, maybe a brief tornado or two before this entire line becomes linear in nature. And I'll show you what that's going to look like here in just a little bit. Switching over to our instability, this is the general fuel that we need for storms to fire up. So again, this is a good indicator of where the strongest storms are likely to occur. This is starting at noon tomorrow. Severe weather not expected around noon, but once we get into the 3 to 4 to 5 o'clock hours, you can see a lot of that surface instability bubbles up right there along 94 and points south. If you get north of 94, you can see not a whole lot going on for surface-based storms. We can still have elevated storms, meaning those storms are not fueled by anything down at the surface, but the instability is rather circulating higher up in the atmosphere. Think of that mid-level, that 2 to 3 miles up in the atmosphere. And that could cause a lot of these storms that are, north of the warm front perhaps to be strong in nature. Maybe you could see some larger hail, some strong storms that would produce maybe some special weather statements. Again, those are storms that are strong but not quite severe. So that could be our top priority for places north of 94. Once you get south of 94, it could be game on for that all hazards look. As you can see, once we move into the evening hours, here's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. All of that surface-based instability dips way south of the state line. That's good news for any surface-based storms. Again, the strongest storms are always going to be surface-based in nature. They can tap into that warm air that's circulating at the surface. Again, surface-based temperatures tomorrow could be up near 80 degrees in spots along and south of the Michigan, Indiana, Ohio state line. So that's our instability component. We also can take a look at the M component, the moisture. Again, we need moisture for clouds to develop and for rain, for thunderstorms to develop. And so this is kind of another main driving factor in terms of severe weather tomorrow. And as you can see, here comes our dew points shooting up into the 60s by noon tomorrow here, according to the RRFS model. This continues into the evening hours, and then once that warm front, as I mentioned, starts to dip south here at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, those 60-degree dew points and that surface-based instability dips south with us. So it's a very, very small window for surface-based storms tomorrow. We're looking at perhaps maybe 2-3 hours, kind of getting close to a reach at that point of maybe 4 hours at most of that tiny window. But most of these storms tomorrow that are going to be severe are only going to last for maybe an hour or two, ballpark average, as this instability pops up and then goes south of the state line here for Michigan. So a lot of news sites out there are already mentioning that this is going to be primarily an Indiana and Ohio threat. And while this is true, we still do not want to let our guard down very early on for this line of storms when it initially develops. Because once it develops, or if it develops in Michigan, it's going to be supercellular in nature to start. And that will result in perhaps an all hazards threat. Now, the most important thing that you guys want to know is what's the timing looking like. So we'll go ahead and go through that right now. And I will also bring up some things that have changed over the last 24 hours. So here's the 18Z HRRR run as of this afternoon. What you'll see on here is projected radar throughout the next 24 hours. So what you see here is rain moving in across Wisconsin and northern Michigan here as early as maybe 10, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Sunshine still popping up down there, fueling the atmosphere down in southern Michigan. Once we get to noon, though, we start to see maybe a little bit of moisture pooling in towards Wisconsin and Iowa, and that moisture is what's going to turn into our strong to severe thunderstorms as we move into the 3 o'clock hour, and here's the 4 o'clock hour starting tomorrow afternoon. As I mentioned here, the start time for severe weather is primarily going to be after 3 p.m. So here's 4 p.m. As you can see here, we're looking for these cells to pop up here on the HRRR run. So we're looking for those yellows to become oranges, maybe little red dots, and even some pink dots here on the radar. And as we get to the 5 o'clock hour, here's the evening commute, 6 o'clock hour, we can see that string of pearls, a string of storms start to pop up there along 94, and those become severe rather quickly. And with the atmosphere we have out there tomorrow, again, a line of pearls, meaning a line of supercells, could produce that all-hazard threat. As I mentioned, hail is the main threat here, and you can actually see this where you can see the strongest updrafts here are actually circled on the map. So you see those little maroon lines around some of these cells. Those are the strongest of the updrafts that are expected for some of these storms tomorrow. So you can see, the placement might not be exact, but we can see there's a very large updraft moving across Berrien and Cass County, one moving through the Coldwater area, perhaps a couple over in the Monroe-Lenawee County area as well. And then those storms grow upscales, what we call it, very, very quickly with some super large updrafts as they move into Indiana and Ohio. So while most of the focus is on Ohio and Indiana, The border region here along southern Michigan will need to be on high alert for some very large hailstones initially, as I mentioned, before this line of storms becomes linear in nature. And when this line of storms becomes linear, so the string of pearls turns into one elongated line, that turns into more of a damaging wind threat. And so we'll have hail to start, and with those supercells, we cannot rule out maybe an isolated tornado or two. It's not our main focus right now by any means, but again, with any supercellular storms, just an all hazards threat is just naturally there. So again, tornado threat's kind of that tertiary threat that we're talking about. Primary threat to start is going to be hail, and depending on how quickly this line of storms can become linear is how quickly this turns into a damaging wind threat. I think for Michigan, safely right now, we can say hail is going to be on the table for pretty much all these storms that you see. And as we move into the evening hours, the damaging wind threat is going to be primarily south of the state line. So here's 8 p.m. As you can see, by the time we get to 8 p.m. and 9 p.m., all those storms are already south of the state line. So that window of 3 to 9, but honing in on that, about that 5 to 8 o'clock hour there for portions of southern Michigan is going to be the main focal point for those large hailstones. And again, as we move throughout the late evening hours tomorrow, so here's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock, those storms are pouring down across Indiana, Ohio, and even over there in central Illinois. Now, I mentioned changes. If we go back 6 hours to the 12Z run, which came out earlier this morning, you can see the placement, the start placement of this line of storms is, well, south of the state line, meaning not many severe storms would be expected for southern Michigan along and south of 94. As you can still see, there's that one big storm blasting through the South Bend area, but other than that, it's primarily a rain fest on the 12Z run that came out earlier this morning. If we back up another 6 hours, you can see the starting placement for this line of storms is further back north in Michigan. So this is around the same time frame, around that 5 to 8 o'clock time frame tomorrow evening, along and south of 94. And if we back it up another 6 hours to last night, this is where we first started increasing our probabilities for this event for places along and south of 94. You can fast forward through it here through tomorrow evening. And again, that keeps that primarily north along 94 for a start location before moving south into Indiana and Ohio. So as you can see, over the last 24 hours, we've seen a flip-flopping pattern. Some models have it starting south of the state line, missing southern Michigan altogether. Some have it 2 counties north into the I-94 stretch. So we have to be very careful, and that is why we saw a northern shift with our severe weather outlook that we released earlier today. With that being said, if you guys missed it earlier today, this is what we currently have for our severe weather outlook. Again, this is the general severe weather outlook, so if you don't mind what the percentage of each hazard is going to be, this is the map you look at. So this is just your generic severity level, with level 1 being pretty much along and south of 96, level 2 being along and south of 94, and perhaps a little bit of a level 3 zone inching into portions of Branch, Hillsdale, and Lenawee counties down there in extreme southern Michigan into northern Ohio. If you do care about the hazards and the percentages, again, this is totally different from the Storm Prediction Center's 2 to 5% chance, but we have a less than 1% chance highlighted in tan for pretty much every area along and south of 94. That may change. We may bump it up just one category just because there's a chance of those brief spin up or 2 probabilities tomorrow. So we may see blue inch into southern Michigan with our last call outlook, which is going to be coming out tomorrow morning. So make sure you're following along. Switch it over to severe wind. 1 to 4% chance in that blue zone there shown on the map for Kalamazoo, Jackson, Detroit. And for our southern row of counties, 5 to 14% chance of a storm producing severe winds. And the main cause of the level 3 being inched into southern Michigan is for hail. As mentioned there, 1 to 4% in blue, 5 to 14% chance of a large hailstone in green, and a 15 to 34% chance shown there in yellow. As a reminder, severe hail starts at 1 inch in diameter. Severe winds start at 60 miles per hour in nature. Tomorrow, we could see some very large hail. I will say this right off the bat. With these supercellular storms, the lifted indices available plus the lapse rates, this is basic weather lingo for us behind the scenes, are showing sufficient data for larger hailstones. And what this does actually look like on a SKU-T, if you've never seen a SKU-T before or a sounding in general, we'll go ahead and take one here. We'll take this from the Hillsdale County area. I'm going to try and get one that's prior to the warm front going south, just to give you guys a good example of some good lapse rates here. See if I can find one. That is not bad. So we're looking at these lapse rates down here in the bottom left corner. If you guys can see the LR for lapse rates. We're looking for numbers that are around 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer change. So that's a change of temperature with height as we go up into the atmosphere. So every kilometer you basically go up into the sky, you're losing 7 degrees worth of temperature. And again, that rapid cooling allows for that water vapor in the atmosphere to quickly cool. And of course, we're looking at lifted indices that are supposed to be higher on here, but I'm not seeing higher lifted indices like I did earlier. Go ahead and go to right about here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it like I did earlier, which is a good sign. But for those who are curious, when we're looking for our lifted indices, we're looking at this number right here, the LI on a sounding. And we're looking for a very large negative number, such as -5 or -6. And some of our earlier soundings did show that. Not seeing it as much anymore, so that's a good sign that our lift may be weaker in nature. But again, the lift is going to allow those larger hailstones to stay suspended within the updrafts of the atmosphere and eventually cause some larger hailstones. And again, the size of the hailstones tomorrow could be larger than 2 inches in diameter. Now, as a reminder, the state record is like 4.5 inches in diameter, so we're not supposed to see a crazy large hail tomorrow, but we cannot rule out a hailstone that could be as high as 3 inches in diameter. And again, this primary hazard of hail will be along and south of 94. So if you guys have any valuables or vehicles outside tomorrow, it's a good idea to perhaps cover them up with a tarp, just in case. Just play it safe rather than being sorry about it. And as always, make sure to not park underneath an overpass if you do get caught out in a hailstorm, and especially do not block lanes of traffic. Again, that is illegal to do so. Other than that, though, again, timing once more for those who are just tuning in, primarily after 3 p.m. tomorrow. Here's noon as a starting point. As you can see, rain, perhaps a little bit of snow mixing in across portions of the UP and far northern lower. Once we get to 2 o'clock here, 3 o'clock, early rain starts moving across southern Michigan. That rain starts to turn into thunderstorms around 4. Once we get to 5 o'clock, our string of pearls starts to set up along the 94 corridor. Depending on what the latest model says tonight, it may be a little bit south, may stay in the same spot. Once we get to 6 o'clock, this is when our line of pearls really starts to take off. Then we get to 7 o'clock, and you can see all of the updrafts shown in that little highlighted area on each cell there across southern Michigan. And 8 o'clock, those cells continue into Indiana and Ohio. And really by 9 o'clock, we're pretty much done. So this is, generally speaking, a 6-hour event or less for portions of southern Michigan. And as a reminder, with the snow tomorrow, I'll go ahead and switch back to the HRRR here and show you guys the projected reflectivity types. A lot of our snow is going to be occurring along southern UP and northern lower peninsula, where totals are going to be around an inch, maybe an inch and a half for some higher elevation zones, such as Gaylord and portions of Antrim County. As you can see on this map in general, between the precipitation types, you have severe weather ongoing, and you go 150 miles north, and you've got snow. As a reminder tomorrow, the temperatures, if you guys missed our post, are going to be varying by upwards of maybe 60 degrees in spots from the northern tip to the southern tip of Michigan. Temperatures tomorrow the temperature gradient tomorrow is quite drastic in nature. Again, you have 22 degrees up there in Copper Harbor, and some of our earlier runs, this has actually cooled down a lot since the last HRRR run, but temperatures in the low 70s tomorrow across portions of southern Michigan. And so again, 22 to maybe 72 degrees, that's at least 50 degrees change across the entire state of Michigan. So we're going to see all seasons tomorrow. So hope you guys are ready. If you're in the UP, no summer yet, more snow on the way. But again, you guys will get there eventually. Maybe the snow will melt by May. And if you're in southern Michigan, this is another event to just mark off the list here as we get into another severe weather event starting tomorrow as early as 3 o'clock. So again, if you are kind of in the middle zone, so if you're Grand Rapids to Lansing to Flint, up to, say, Cadillac and Houghton Lake, You're kind of in that middle range of you'll see some rain, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder, but overall it's going to be the middle zone for tomorrow, kind of similar to some of the previous events we've seen so far this spring. So not a whole lot to worry about if you're really from Holland to Grand Rapids to Lansing to Lapeer and Flint and points north in terms of severe weather. If you're south of that line, you do want to be on alert tomorrow. But the main focus for any severe weather is going to be along and south of 94. So again, as long as you have multiple ways to receive warning, including us here at Michigan Storm Chasers, you'll be ready for when that next warning is issued. As a reminder, anytime a severe warning or tornado warning is issued in the state of Michigan, we will be live and we will stay live tracking it until that warning does expire. Other than that, though, I think that pretty much does it for the information I have to tell you guys. I'll probably repeat myself here as I go into the question period. But again, hopefully this information was helpful for you guys. Again, timing has already been mentioned. If need be, you can rewind the stream and it will be available at the end in replay view over here on YouTube. Over here on YouTube, speaking of which, we have a couple super chats to shout out, including from Evan, one of our storm chasers, saying, "Howdy, Joel," back for month number 21. Thank you very much, Evan. Also, Dee Dee saying, "Thank you, MSC," back for month number 15 as an EF4 member. Got Becca Price, back for month number 21 as well. And Julie with a $5 super chat, one of our mods here at MSC, asking or saying, "You know what I'm going to ask." For those who don't understand the inside joke, Julie always asks, is it a good time to plant the garden? And we are getting there. However, we still have a couple cold days upcoming here to end the month of March. But eventually, once we get into April here, it looks like there is at least a warm-up on the horizon for the first week of April, which could bring more thunderstorm chances and rain chances for that stretch. And we'll go back to the general severe weather outlook here. Again, if you're not looking forward to the severe weather tomorrow, you're going to want the solution, I believe it was the 12Z solution from earlier today to be correct. Yes, so the 12Z HRRR solution earlier today has most of what's moving through Michigan being just general rain, perhaps a couple rumbles of thunder mixing in. As you can see here, the only big cells that are showing on the 12Z HRRR run are pretty much Berrien and extreme southern Cass County coming off of Lake Michigan. And again, those would be some pretty decent hailers, perhaps 2 inches in diameter or greater. But again, as you can see, as we roll this forward here, not a whole lot of thunderstorm action going on across southern Michigan. So you're going to want the 12Z HRRR run to be right if you do not want severe weather. However, the 6Z was very much the opposite. Those cells are popping up all along 94 and even portions of 96 there across southeast Michigan. And the 0Z run from last night also showing those cells primarily in southern and southeast Michigan as well. So no severe weather. Cheer on the 12Z HRRR run. If you want severe weather, 6Z and 0Z HRRR run. Again, this is what we call the flip-flopping pattern here on some of our models. We can also take a look at some of our other models and their reflectivity runs, such as the RRFS, which is a mainstream short-term model that's going to be used more often going forward as they eventually decommission the HRRR and some other models here. So the RFS you'll see more of eventually in the coming years, but this is right now still experimental in nature. And as you can see, the latest HRRR one has a couple cells across the Jackson, Hillsdale, and Monroe County areas, and then eventually filling back into the southwest side of the state, there south of Coldwater and south of Niles. So overall, this has the RFS has this line of storms popping up along the US 12 corridor, which is basically the southern row of counties there in southern Michigan. So it's kind of a middle ground between the HRRR run that was super far south and the HRRR run that has been super far north. So overall, hopefully this can be a big swing and miss for Michigan, because again, we've kind of already had our fair share of severe weather across southern Michigan so far this spring. But at the same time, it is only March 25th, so we do have to be prepared for any weather that comes our way here in the state of Michigan. Yes, there is a chance for a couple positive lightning strikes tomorrow. This depends on how long some of that surface-based instability can stick around. There is a little bit of a cap. However, that's not really a great thing in the case of tomorrow because, again, when you have some sort of limiting cap to start, these storms will become semi-discrete in nature. So we do have to keep an eye on that. But eventually the cap will erode as the moisture pools in. So eventually it becomes super linear in nature. So it'll start supercellular and turn linear if you guys missed it. See if any more questions here. Again, timing tomorrow, if you missed it, primarily after 4 p.m. Again, we're saying as early as 3 p.m., but the primary focus here is going to be that 5 to 8 o'clock time frame across all. I won't pick out a specific city, but these cells could pop up anywhere along that stretch of 94 between 5 and 8 p.m. So again, if you know you live along and south of 94, you do want to be on some alert for these large hailstones eventually turning into a damaging wind threat. And again, the tornado threat is third on our list, but we cannot rule out at least a brief tornado or two just because the storms are supposed to start as supercellular in nature. So again, initial hail threat with a small tornado threat to start, and then it turns into a wind threat as the night goes on. Will the storms be moving quickly? Your answer is on the QT down here. Your bunkers right and bunkers left, 43 and 55 knots. So those are going to be moving off to the southeast at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So a relatively good clip. It's also why we'll see these storms come and go in a matter of 3 hours for some locations, maybe less. We got Linda in here with a $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Linda. If you missed our severe weather outlook, again, here it is from earlier today, released at 8:30 a.m. We will have a last call coming out again tomorrow morning. It'll also be available on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Michigan Storm Chasers. Later this evening, once this briefing is done, I will be putting my forecasting skills to the test and getting you guys a last call outlook there. First for Patreon, and then again, as I mentioned, it'll be out first thing tomorrow morning on our Facebook, Instagram, and X pages at MI Storm Chasers. Wind gusts tomorrow, anything that's going to be severe is going to be around 60 to 70 miles per hour. However, non-severe gusts, so if you're just talking general winds, in the ballpark of 15 to 25 miles per hour. It's not really going to be a big wind day until perhaps later in the evening. Also getting over a little bit of a sickness right now, so if you hear me clear my throat, that is why. Snow amounts for the UP, if you're curious, really just going to be around and under an inch. If we go ahead and switch over to our winter accumulations here, there is your totals through midnight tomorrow. So over the next 30 hours or so. Again, most of this snow that you see here, primarily under an inch. Anywhere you see some of the darker gray, that could be totals that are just into the 1 to 3 category on the low end of things, of course. We'll also have a ice and snow map out tomorrow morning as well here at Michigan Storm Chasers. This data is courtesy of Weatherbell, and if you would like a free models site, this one is Pivotal Weather. So we kind of bounce back and forth between the two. Also going to take a look at just maybe the FV3. FV3 has it very far south. If you want to root for the FV3, here's a good model to put everything along and south of the state line. So cheer on the FV3 as well. As you can see here, we have a lot of different model runs to kind of comb through. And the M3K was interesting. This one had just barely clipping portions of southern Michigan, but this has also flip-flopped a lot. Some of us that have followed the NAM 3K, especially last night, I know a couple of our Discord followers are probably watching this live stream right now. The NAM 3K last night went bonkers for an all-hazard risk, but again, it looks like it has calmed down in a way to where most of this is going to be south of the state line. So a lot has changed over the last 24 hours for the NAM 3K at least. Primary hazard, for those just tuning in, again, once again tomorrow, primary hazard is going to be large hail to start. We're thinking perhaps hailstones greater than 2 inches in diameter, so that will crack windshields in some locations. So giving you guys the advice now of if you have anything outside that you do not want to get dented or cracked by hail, please use this time to park those vehicles in a safe location or put some tarps on them. And again, it's good to be safe rather than sorry. And this is going to be for anywhere along and south of 94. If you're north, if you're up along or in between the 94 and 96 corridor, you can do it just to be safe. But we really don't expect too many severe storms north of 94 tomorrow. Thunderstorms, sure. Large hail, borderline. But I would expect most of the 2-inch hailstones, if anything, to be along and south of 94. Secondary threat, eventually damaging winds of 60 to maybe 70 miles per hour. And a very, very small tornado threat. Not really talking about the tornado threat too much here. But again, we are throwing it in just because the initial storm mode, so the types of storms that you're going to see tomorrow are going to be supercellular in nature. So those isolated cells, similar to what we saw with the Three Rivers Union City tornado, that was a supercell where it has that hook shape. We could see a line of hook-shaped storms tomorrow, so supercells, before eventually they congeal into one big line, called linear mode at that point. And that will turn into basically a damaging wind threat instead of a hail threat. Or a damaging wind threat instead of a hail and tornado threat. Again, timing primarily from 3 to 9 p.m. However, the largest or the best time frame for any severe weather tomorrow is going to be that 5 to 8 time frame, as mentioned again, along and south of 94. No problem, Nell. Thank you for the nice compliments. Here is live radar, once again, for those who missed it at the beginning. Some light rain moving across portions of northeast lower Michigan heading towards the Thumb. So big time hail, main threat, followed by a damaging wind threat and a low-end tornado threat. Rainfall amounts, by the way, you'll see a updated precipitation map tomorrow morning as well. Some places could see over ½ an inch of rain, but we're looking at some totals upwards of an inch south of the state line primarily. But again, a couple locations could sneak into that 1 inch category, especially if you could see some of those larger cells trained over the same area, primarily along that US 12 corridor. What did the NAM model show last night? Good question. See if I can find it. Is this it right here? Yeah, here's the NAM model from last night. It was showing some wacky things for Thursday. We were looking at the tornado composite primarily, if I recall, and it really peaked there across southwest Michigan. But again, this is 24 hours old at this point. So, yeah, here's an example of the lifted indices from yesterday. As you can see there, the LI that we're talking about on the center of your screen. We're always looking for that number to be lower than -5-ish. So -6, -7, -8, -9. That's some decent lifted indices there for suspended updrafts to continue. And again, the best location for hail in the atmosphere, for those who don't understand what you're looking at here, this is a 2D slice of the atmosphere. So as you go up in the atmosphere, you're looking at that temperature and dew point as it changes with height. And that area between the dashed blue lines here, where that temperature travels through, is 0 to -20 degrees Celsius. I will apologize now, everything's in Celsius that we learned in meteorology. It's just the way everything is. But that is some decent CAPE. So that area between the red line and the dashed white line. So instability tomorrow, matching up with some decent moisture up there in the freezing layer. So that is some decent chance at some significant hail. And as you can see here, in our sounding analogs, it's not likely to reach that large in diameter, but these are similar sounding data to events that have happened in the past at some of these sites, such as I believe that's Fort Worth. It was a similar sounding back then in 06, it looks like. It's 3406. And so again, with a similar sounding here, reminds us of certain old events in the past. So likely won't see 4.25 inch hail tomorrow, but the probability is still there for at least some large hailstones, 2 to 3 inches in diameter, I would imagine. But yes, the NAM 3K always chooses violence. It has definitely calmed down in the last 18 hours. As you can see here, most of that fuel is now pretty much south of the state line as well. And if we look at the lifted indices, they are still reasonable at -6. Nothing like they used to be at -8 and -9. Somebody's here. It's Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Good evening.
Just about to wrap it up here. Do you have anything you want to add? Maybe if you have any information on perhaps people traveling south into Indiana or Ohio?
Well, I do not know what you covered already, but really keying in on North Indiana. So if you're traveling the I-20, I believe it is, I-80-90 area, and US 20 would be the exact route there. Between, we're going to say 6 and 9 p.m., you guys better be on the lookout because there could be quite some large hail and maybe even a tornado threat across that area in that time frame. Otherwise, a hail threat will continue into central Indiana if you guys are going south there. But overall, we're focused on Michigan over here. So I'm sure Joel's got you up to speed.
For sure. There you go. Now you're in here. On cam. Hold on, I can share my screen too. I forgot I don't have that sharing right now.
Thank you much.
Yep.
I am dark. Let's fix that.
I say you gotta turn on some light.
Here we go. I have a. I don't mean to crash the party in here. I'm about to wrap it up. I do have a surprise.
Apparently there's an echo. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, there it is.
Now it's fixed.
Now it's fixed. There's the surprise, everybody.
Haven't seen Pippi on stream in quite a while, so I want to give her an appearance.
Can I full screen you? Hold on. There you go.
Oh no.
Was that a meow?
No.
Oh. It's just licking of the chops.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There's a meow.
Nice.
All right, I'll put you down. Sorry for bothering.
Yeah, we were just talking about right before you came in the wacky nature of the NAM 3K and how it's always crazy sometimes, but it has calmed down in the last 18 hours.
You know, the NAM 3 used to be a respectable model back in 2021. There was
It's Pat.
1 year, maybe two years that it almost nailed every single setup back to back to back to back. It was a spot on model. I don't know what happened to it, but it definitely it got some caffeine.
It's past its prime.
There we go.
I also talked a little bit about how the RFS will be mainstream, I guess you could say, eventually, as the replacement to the HRRR in the coming years.
Yeah, that I believe the MPass models are as well are in development to do that as well. So we'll have the MPass, which is a model that we don't typically use here on streams with you guys, but there are several models out there that we typically do not broadcast because usually they're in left field. So
yeah. Everyone's asking for a hurricane cameo. I guess I'll see if I can find him. He's not in my room right now, but I'll go look. You're gonna hear me walk out, try and find him here.
yes, Keegan will have chasers tomorrow out and about.
Oh, he did not like being pulled from his spot.
Yeah, Hurricane is Joel's cat. There's actually a sticker on YouTube for it, I believe.
Hey, bud.
Meow, there's Hurricane.
Did not like this.
We could tell.
Say hi, bud. There you go. Yes, if you guys are just tuning in, we went over all of the details. There you go, Hurricane. We went over all the details for the severe weather tomorrow, March 26th, in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the stream. So feel free to rewind back if you're just tuning in. Went over timing, location, and again, you can see here, if I switch back off of my big face on the screen, this is what we're looking at for timing for tomorrow. Again, I'm mentioning that 3 to 9 o'clock time frame in Michigan, but we really start to see those storms pop up around the 5 to 6 o'clock time frame. The strong to severe storms, of course, they are along and south of 94, and then by 7 and 8 o'clock, these storms are already pretty much moving out of Michigan into Ohio and Indiana. And again, there's 9 o'clock where all the storms are pretty much out of the state. So again, with storm motion being about 45 to 50 miles per hour off to the southeast tomorrow, these storms are going to be moving pretty quickly. And there could be some wind-driven hail in there as well. So as I mentioned, large hail is the primary hazard. And so if you haven't yet already done so, make sure to protect your vehicles tonight so you're ready for tomorrow, just out of an abundance of caution if you do get large hail in your neck of the woods. There's some pretty decent updrafts on the HRRR run.
Yeah, the hail risk is definitely concerning tomorrow for that very far southwest Michigan area, even into northwest Indiana or northeast Indiana. That Fort Wayne cell you see there is hopefully doesn't come to fruition because that looks like a monster.
Yeah.
For hail producers. I think "oh hail no" would be a good term to use for tomorrow.
Absolutely. My cat is now sulking behind the green screen. Did not like being taken from his sleepy little spot, so. As for exact cities getting hit tomorrow, we can't quite tell you that information. Again, what we're showing here on the HRRR run is approximate. So in terms of strength, sure, you can kind of look at what the strength could be for some of these cells. And in fact, the DBZ values on some of these cells that are shown here, so the purples that you see, those are DBZ values of 60 to 65 in nature, and perhaps even upwards of 70, which, again, as for those who don't know, radar is measured by sound, so the electromagnetic waves that are shooting off or emitting from the radar sites. And again, that DBZ value, once you get to 60 to 65, those rain droplets are quite large in nature, and eventually when you loft those rain droplets up there into the freezing layer of the atmosphere, they will come together pretty quickly and freeze pretty quickly into some decent sized hail. And so that's why we're looking at those big purple blobs in particular here on the HRRR run for tomorrow, because again, that's going to be where our largest raindrops are, and eventually that turns into some large hail. Again, it's going to be primarily a 94 and south risk. So for those who missed the severe weather outlook, here it is once again. Greatest chance for severe weather tomorrow, primarily hail, is going to be in that little level 3 sliver you see down there in portions of Branch, Hillsdale, and Lenawee counties. Level 2 in green, lower chance, but still a chance nonetheless. Same thing goes for the blue, the lowest chance of severe weather in blue, but still a chance nonetheless. Anywhere you see in tan is at risk for some thunderstorms, but not likely to be severe. Again, for those who want to know what the percentages are from us here at MSC, again, these are our own in-house forecast maps. They are not done, we don't use really any other sources for help when we make these percentages. And so as you can see here, the less than 1% chance of a tornado risk is far different from maybe some of your other sources such as the SBC. We also have our wind risk, primarily 1 to 4 or 5 to 14% chance. And of course, to match up with this severe weather outlook, the largest hazard that you see here, largest probabilities, of course, can be the 15 to 34% chance shown in yellow there, south of Hillsdale and Adrian. And as a reminder for these probabilities, for those who may not dabble in weather probability, your odds of severe weather are always 0 until a storm is actually over you. Once you have a storm over you, then you reference these numbers shown on the screen. So say you're in Jackson tomorrow, or let's actually go to Coldwater here because it's kind of solidly in that green zone. Let's say you get a storm in Coldwater tomorrow. Well, once that storm is passing over you, it now has a 5 to 14% chance that could produce some significant hail, 1 inch in diameter or greater. If you're down there in, what's a city in extreme southern Lenawee County, Ryan?
Morenci.
There you go. So if you're in Morenci and a storm passes over you, that storm has a 15 to 34% chance of producing large hail. But until that storm gets to Morenci, you have a 0% chance of severe weather. That is how probability works. If you want to look at it the opposite way, it's in the green zone, 85 to 95% chance of a storm not being severe when it passes over you. So for those with weather anxiety out there, just think of it the other way. Since there's not really too many questions right now, I'm going to go ahead and actually take this time to roll through our trusted partners here at MSC. Again, what we do is completely free for you guys that are watching, thanks to these trusted partners. So give them a shout out. Let them know MSC sent you when we roll through them here. And of course, turn to them in times of need after, before, or during severe weather events. So we'll go ahead and roll through those right now. Starting out with ServPro. fire to water damage all across the state. Turn to Serve Pro. Also got Storm Guard, Metro Detroit North, covering portions of Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties. Top Gun, Roofing Exteriors. Trusted source for roofing, siding, gutters, and windows across West Michigan. Top Notch Tree Care, for all of your tree care needs in the Lansing to Jackson area. Victor's Home Solutions, one of our newer sponsors here at MSC, covering the Tri-Cities region, Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Midland, Bay City. A-Class Construction and Restoration, proudly covering Northeast Lower Michigan, Ludington to Traverse City, and even Cadillac. American Arbor, specializing in storm cleanup and tree damage across Southwest Michigan. Apex Restoration Mitigation, for all of your restoration needs across the Genesee County region and the Thumb. Battle Creek IT, for all of your IT needs across the state, proudly powering Michigan Storm Chasers, Battle Creek IT. Clear Plow Snow Pushers, it's not too late to get a snow pusher here for the next winter or perhaps a late spring winter storm, based out of Frankenmuth. Crystal Flash, for all of your fuel and propane delivery needs across the state of Michigan. Katz Roofing and Siding, for all of your roofing projects in the Lansing and Potterville area. Kuiper Tree Care, for all of your tree-related services around West Michigan, turn to Kuiper. And also McKay Tree Specialists, covering Southeast Michigan. Mike Hayes, Roofing and Siding, for all of your roofing needs in the Eastern Thumb region, Sanilac and St. Clair counties. Also, On Top Roofing, Livingston County Trusted Partner and surrounding regions, also our Patreon Trusted Partner of the Year. Rainbow Restoration, for all of your restoration needs in Kent County and surrounding areas. Also, the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Detroit. Feel free to call the number on the screen to donate to families in need across the Detroit region today. And that is our full list here at MSC. So thank you very much to those trusted partners once again for supporting operations here at MSC. Also want to shout out our chasers and moderators for always doing what they're doing. Appreciate you guys very much, especially our moderators in here tonight. Keep them in chat and check. Make sure there's nothing unruly happening. So don't get on their bad side or you will get that band hammer. See if there's any other questions here before I sign off. Time frame on the storms once again. It's going to be at 3 to 9 p.m. time frame, with the bulk of the storms being around 5 to 8. And that's going to be primarily along and south of I-94, as shown here on our severe weather outlook, which I'll switch back here to real quick. Again, anyone in the level 1, level 2, or level 3 zone is in a severe risk for tomorrow. Julie wants a pickle-themed band hammer. We'll see what we can do. As always, if you're new here, we do these briefings all the time prior to severe weather events. So if you're finding us for the first time today, welcome, of course. Hope to see you back here more often. And we are live on 4 different platforms always at the same time. So that would be Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch TV. Our username is MI Storm Chasers on all of them, or just you can search Michigan Storm Chasers. And in my opinion, the best platform to watch on is going to be either Twitch or YouTube. But again, if Facebook's your thing, then Facebook's your thing. Same with X or any of the other platforms mentioned. So again, it's all there. If you know someone that may not be on Facebook all the time, feel free to send them our YouTube link, as again, you don't really need a YouTube account to watch videos on YouTube. Tornado threat again tomorrow, very, very low. It's our 3rd threat on the list of threats out of 3. Again, hail leading the way, followed by damaging winds, and tornadoes being last. But it's a less than 1% chance for anyone along and south of 94. for now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, we may briefly pull the level 1 risk, so that 1 to 3% chance, up into maybe the US 12 corridor, just because that's where supercells may start. And again, just to give you guys at least some coverage there across southern Michigan. But as it stands right now, it's a less than 1% chance. So main hazard, going to be that hail. Anything else before we head off here, Ryan? Any other tidbits that you picked up today besides what I've said so far?
No, I got nothing.
All
It's
right.
pretty well self-explanatory. We'll be live if need be. We're ready.
Sweet. Janelle says there's a pretty sunset on our Plainfield webcam in Grand Rapids.
Is there now?
Guess so. It was a nice day out there. Hopefully everyone got a chance to enjoy a little bit of the fresh air. That is if you are along and south of like M46. If you were north of that, it was pretty chilly, but can't complain with the weather you get, especially where you live. Who is live with us tomorrow during possible severe? So that will be me. And Ryan's got you covered over on the Indiana side of things. And again, if you're new here, don't realize we also run Indiana Weather Network / Indiana Weather Online. So feel free to follow those accounts on Facebook and YouTube if you haven't already. So you will see Ryan over there covering Indiana, and I will be right here with the guys covering Michigan. We'll also probably see some of our other staff members as well, I would imagine, at some point.
I believe we have Chandler and Alex who will be chasing potentially,
Okay.
as well as Caleb chasing. And obviously we have our chasers, Ben, Drew. I don't know who's all going out. I haven't did a head count just yet, but I do know we have several people going out tomorrow between both states. So we got you guys covered on radar and also with eyes on the ground.
Absolutely. So if you haven't followed along, hit that follow button. Michelle,
I like that comment from Michelle. Yeah, I saw that.
I hope not to see you tomorrow, Joel. No offense. No offense taken. It's okay. We hope to not go live either, but again, we will be here if a severe warning does pop in.
It is a very, very valid point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ashton, if you're following the Storm Prediction Center, they did trim it south in this afternoon update, but yes, they are under some SIG hatching, is what they call it, the Storm Prediction Center, for a tornado threat. Which, again, for those who don't know, SIG 1 means elevated chance for perhaps some EF2 tornadoes mixed in. But again, as I mentioned here, not really seeing the stronger tornado threat versus at least the hail and the wind threat like for tomorrow. So while it is there from the Storm Prediction Center, we're not really honing in too much on the tornado threat.
I will say there is a very nice sunset ongoing across West Michigan.
I'll let you post something about it right now while I wrap up the stream if you'd like.
I was going to share my screen, actually. You're welcome to share it. It's going.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Courtesy of Rosemont Inn there in Douglas, which is on Lake Michigan. Nice orange sunset going on.
Heck yeah.
It's also kind of windy over there, too.
Yeah, I noticed it today. I was out for a walk and I was like, what is that noise? Oh, it's the wind. A couple gusts of 20 to 25.
Let's see here. Ooh, there's a good one. There's a good one.
Courtesy of
Guardian Technologies. And also, thank you for Hampton Inn for hosting this scammer for us.
Beautiful city up there they got in Manistee. If you guys have never been, highly recommend visiting at least once. There you go, Manistee. There's your little bits of promotional value. But for real, that beach down there that you can see, public beach there, very spectacular. And Ryan, I don't know if you've ever been on one of those very large metal slides back in the day that goes like up 20 feet. Manistee Beach has one of those slides down there still.
Oh, really?
Yes. So if anyone has ever been to Manistee, they'll know they know that slide's still there. At least it was when I last went, which was like 2 years ago. So well, it looks like we are calming down here in chat, so we're going to go ahead and pop off for the evening. Hopefully this briefing was very informative for you guys. If you missed it, if you're just tuning in, feel free to rewind the stream back to the first 20 minutes. All the information can be found there. We went over the ingredients of slim, shear lift, instability, moisture, plus the timing between some of our older model runs and our newer model runs and why we've seen a little bit of a flip-flopping pattern. And of course, as always, the severe weather outlook shown on the screen right now. Bethel says the slide is here, so they have not gotten rid of it. Perfect. All right, we are going to hop off. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. As you head out, feel free to smash that like button and the follow button if you haven't done so. We'll be back here for more live severe weather coverage or perhaps a future briefing right here at Michigan Storm Chasers. So tune in next time for more information or life-saving information if we are tracking storms live. So we'll catch you guys later. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the warm evening out there before it cools off. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.